All right. Well, it's been a very long time, and we are here again to talk about a very important topic. Today, we are talking about agric and the youth. We like to look at the opportunities in agric. Mostly, people look at the challenges, but we would want to look at the opportunities in agric and how these opportunities can employ the youth in this country. We have known and we know in the past how farming has helped a lot of people, especially our great grandparents. But in recent years, we have not paid much attention to farming. Youth, in particular, have not paid much attention to farming. Today, I would be speaking to a lot of experienced farmers, at least two of them, to take us to some steps that you need to know or you need to learn to become a very productive farmer. And if you are watching us, just know that we are here to talk about the opportunities in farming, or if you like, in agribusiness. I have traveled to many farmers across the country, and when they tell you their success stories, you feel like abandoning everything and venture into farming. But when you go elsewhere and they begin to tell you problems, you assume that there is nothing beautiful about agric. But like we have always said, the only sector that employs every single human being on this earth is agriculture. Whatever you do, even if you attend the medical school, you can be employed in the sector. And almost everything that we do has some percentage of farming or agriculture, whether in the production of medicine, in the production of whatever. And even in our food, our attires and everything has some elements or some everything about it is I mean comes from agriculture. Almost all the products that unless maybe it is artificially made, and things that are artificially made do not even produce themselves. I mean, they would have to come from a source. And I knew for sure that these things are coming from agric. So today I'll be talking to Clement. Clement is an IT expert, and he's also a farmer. He has been farming acres of farmlands in the Oti region, and he's also a philanthropist, but a guide at the palace, at my palace. So, Clement, you are welcome to today's program. We would like to talk about opportunities. I know you have a lot of examples to give, but um, um, it's been a long journey, and you've started this for a very long time. How is it like being a farmer, and what really pushed you to venture into farming?
Thank you, Nuruddin. Um, I started my journey into agriculture basically on the philanthropist base as to just discovering that we have certain indigenous plants that has the potential to reduce malnutrition in our communities. So I started to look into those plants, research into them, and then to present them to the communities to see the potentials they have. So for me, it was just an advocacy thing, something I did as a hobby. And then after seeing so much impact in how we are able to use some of our indigenous foods to reduce malnutrition, I wanted to go a step further to look at the economic side of it. Well, what is the economic potential in some of our indigenous food to use it to empower the local people, to add value to them, and to sell it out to the rest of the world? So from 2000, 2006, 2007, all the way to 2016, I was just doing as an advocacy project. And then in 2017, I decided to look into the potentials of it as an economic value. So, what made me to dive deeper into agriculture was to be able to highlight some of the economic potentials of our indigenous food products. The other aspect
Mm.
of it is that I realized that even as an IT farmer, I need to eat. And looking at the fact that somebody is producing my food and using shortcuts, I wanted to make sure that at least I knew the source of my food. And after researching and finding that the source of my food, in as much as I could make all the money in the world, somebody can easily sit in their corner and poison me by using too many chemicals or pesticides or stuff like that. So I became quite afraid, realizing that um, from being an engineer or being a scientist or whatever your status is, one small farmer be in the corner, they can kill you. So just by either misapplication of chemicals or fertilizers. So I decided to say that I think farming is one of the most important ventures in the world. Since all of us need food to survive, it is important that we start to put value on the farming. And one way to do it is to show farmers that even though they all admire to become like me, an IT expert with a lot of international experience, it is possible that the same person can become a farmer and to make farming beautiful. And so for me, it was for the quest to show an example that that it is possible to be whatever class our society will place you and still be a farmer and to make farming a beautiful thing for other young people to venture into.
You've mentioned some of the, I mean, indigenous crops that you wanted to actually look into them. Can you please list some of these crops that you have actually developed? I mean, interest in them.
Yes, yes. One of the main ones we do is moringa. The, the other most other products like baobab, pigeon pea, the local pigeon pea, some of our cassavas that we do in the local setup, you can actually add value to those. Um, Especially some of the trees that, for instance, baobab like this, a lot of locally we use it to make porridge, but we don't plant them. Nobody takes it serious to plant baobab trees, for instance. Um, so
Mhm. This,
we decided to look
I
into
mean,
those. Yeah.
tropical.
But apart from that, we
These are
also have some
tropical
local
trees.
crops. Yeah. Apart from that, we also have some local crops that we don't really see them like contemporary like this, the contemporary, the ayoyo, the brass. Those things we can add value to, but we don't value them. Even the dawadawa, the seeds. These are things that are indigenous to us, and
Yeah.
but yet we are not adding value to it. Even share nuts are quite important, but we are not adding value to them, and we are not selling it as something that is special. We just consider it to be local, so that's it. But these are things if we put more value to, we can actually raise a lot of people from poverty into economic freedom. And um, so the idea is to highlight this. So we make baobab powder, we make Hausa cocoa with fortified with baobab with millet. We also make yeah, we have different products, and also obviously we have the teas, our line of teas that we also make. But the idea is to use like this
Mm.
baobab, this dawa to fortify these our local food products that can bring the nutrition and the taste to an international level. And that's what I'm
Okay.
talking about when
So
I talk about
at what point at what point did you realize it was very important for you to venture into agric? And did you go into it to make money, commercial for commercial purpose, or you just went to, I mean, produce and feed yourself and your family?
um, like I explained earlier, my core focus was how do we use it to reduce malnutrition within our community. That was my purpose. How do we use agriculture? Because I also always wondered that a lot of farmers, they have all this, they produce these huge farms of corn, and yet there are malnourished children within their homes. So there's something wrong. So I think it's either the children are not eating enough, but when you go to these homes, the children are actually eating enough. So it was more about balancing their diet than it was about not having enough food. So when we started doing our research and working with the local farmers, we realized that some of the plants, the indigenous plants they have, actually have the nutrients that they need.
Mm,
But because the global world is selling certain products as special, because for instance, pigeon pea has all the protein content you need for as a normal cow pea, and even more. But because we call it adwa, it is
mm,
considered as the poor man's food. But even in the local context, the local children don't even because they don't value the adwa. When it's cooked, they don't like it. But this contains a lot of protein. So the idea is to make this more interesting and make it special. Because if you can use the adwa to fortify the corn, to become a special drink instead of using soya beans. Then basically you have a beautiful porridge instead of going to buy Tom Brown. You have the specialized, the local fortified pigeon pea with corn or millet or sorghum. Then you're getting the right nutritional balance for the day. So
So,
it's not that they don't have the meat or the necessary ingredients. They have all of that. It's just
mm,
that the value is not
mm,
so they don't value it. So because of that, they ignore. For instance, the Adwa has all the spice that you need, but they will leave it and go and buy Maggie, the huge Maggie cubes with all these chemical based spices, and then they use it in their food and
mm,
leaving the dawadawa and the what have you. Meanwhile, these are the potent nutritional sources which are not valued. And so our job is to add value to them and make those products more beautiful and sexy for them to attract. And Africans, we like to what we see. If it's beautiful, we want to use it. So we try to add value to this and then makes it more interesting for the local people to use.
it appears almost it appears almost all the important crops are classified as poor man crops. I mean, you look at millet, for instance, you look at sorghum, for instance. Yes, but scientists and even farmers are now realizing that millet, these crops are drought resistant crops, and now
Definitely.
the
They
impact
are
of
located
climate
in our
change.
region for a reason. They are located in where all the poor people are located for a reason.
Yes, but that is how we read. You read literatures and you see that poor man's crop. People are classifying them as poor man's crop. In any way, I had wanted
That's
to bring in.
unfortunate.
I had wanted to bring in Fugu Mohammed, who is also a farmer, and to share his. I think he's here. Let's see what so that I'll come back to you with questions on the size of your farm, and exactly you haven't told me when you started. I mean, that is very important, and how much you started your farm. People would want to know because that is one example or one instant that can encourage most people to go into farming business.
Sorry.
I have always said that you don't need to start something big. There was a time a nurse actually called me. She bought how do I say it? He bought a vegetable which was poison. I mean, the farmers actually applied a lot of excessive chemicals
Sure. Yeah.
to be added to yes. So she bought it and she took it. Unfortunately, she had problems and she was rushed to the hospital. So she called me. We have a platform called Food for Africa. She called me. She is on that platform. She called me that I mean this was so we wanted to trace the farmer or the traders. We wanted to trace the traders and even trace the farmers and know exactly what they apply to these crops. And so if you are fond of buying things outside, these are some of the challenges that you face. So the only
No, not
advice
definitely.
I gave to the woman was to have a backyard farming, which really helped her. I mean, year after she called and she was very excited about that suggestion I gave. So Mohammed Fugu, you have also been in farming. I mean, Mohammed Fugu would love to do a lot of animals, and you will see him with his goat and sheep and all that. He doesn't even he doesn't, unfortunately, he doesn't even bring one to the place. So, but Mohammed Fugu, you have been in
Oh,
farming for how long now? And what I know you are a born farmer, but many born farmers actually leave. They run away from farming. But what has made you to stick to farming, even though you are a seasoned journalist, award-winning journalist? He has won almost all the awards, but he's still a bachelor.
yeah. All right. Thank you for this opportunity. Um, for farming, like you said, I was born a farmer. My parents, my late father was a farmer. And we grew up uh, knowing them to be farmers, and we've been in it. But along the line, because of education and other stuff, we were not active. But uh, going into full farming started somewhere around 2014 when I finished my national service.
Mm,
So after national service, uh, you could remember that was the time government placed embargo on recruitment. And where I did my national service, that was at GBC. Uh, I was doing very well, and the management were impressed. They wish they could have maintained me, but they didn't have the power because
okay.
by then embargo was on recruitment. So during the service, I began asking myself, after service, what is next? I don't know any big man who could offer me a job. And when I look back home too, there are people who are looking up to me. So I decided to save part of my national service allowance, but then we're taking around, I think around 350. I saved some. So after the service, I decided to use part of the money to venture in onion farming. So I did the onion, and in fact, I had a very good harvest. And luckily on my part, that particular season too, the market was very good. So
Mm,
I was able to use proceeds. Yes, I did the onion at Zebula.
okay.
So I was able to use part of the that proceeds to, I mean, buy some calves. I think I bought 2 calves, and I
Mm,
was rearing. And I used part of the money to cultivate maize.
mm,
So within a year, I realized that the calves they were growing, and in fact, I was very happy about them. I was very impressed. The maize too was doing very well, and that motivated me. So after the service, for about 3 years, I wasn't getting employment. I was there, and I decided to get serious about the farming, and the interest keep coming. One thing about farming is that once you do and you get good results, that particular year, the interest, you begin to drive more interest in it. But
Mm,
if you don't understand it and you do the first year and it doesn't go well with you and you don't really understand the farming, you see that the interest that you have, it will it will go away. So I developed more
mm,
interest, and I kept on doing it. And as we speak
mm,
now, I can tell you that the 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 calves that I bought, they've multiplied, and now as we speak now, I have about 10 cows. I have about 10 of them. And the farming too, I do soya beans farming. I have a cashew plantation in the Bono East region. And recently I just introduced turkey too. And now
I saw them. I
the
saw them. I
interest,
saw them.
I've developed
I've
much
been
interest in the
monitoring you. So
farming,
I saw them.
and I have a very big idea. The idea is to, yeah, to expand. Yeah. But
So,
one interesting thing is that when I started, the funny thing is that during my national service, when I started this whole thing, even friends, close friends were making fun of me. Sometimes they'll see me in town, I'll
yeah.
go and buy an animal and carry it on my motorbike, and they'll make fun of me that you pa, how can you goat man, sheep man, you see. But I knew what I was doing, and those who were making fun of me now, some of them they come back to me, they they come back to me
For
for
advice.
advice as to how they could also start something.
So the more you do it, the more you get the experience. That has really helped Fugu Mohammed to. These are things that we normally take for granted. And Clement, you know that what Fugu was trying to say is very common in our part of the world. Once you've
Yeah.
been into the four corners of the classroom, people expect that you should be sitting in an office or you should be wearing some kind of I mean you should be something that will give you some kind of picture, beautiful picture. uh, they don't expect such people to be on the field, and this is something that is actually affecting, yeah, that's affecting. So you wanted
Hello,
to make a
hello,
point.
Nuru.
Yes, 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 we can hear you. you
Yes.
wanted you wanted to make a point about
Yeah. So
how your
briefly,
friends. Okay.
yeah, yes. So when I started, actually, they were making fun of me. A lot of friends were making fun of me, but along the line, I can tell you that as you speak now, about two of my friends have contacted me. They've shown interest in it, and I've taken them through, and they've started something which is very impressive.
Hmm.
So that has been the journey. So looking at the broader perspective, the plan is to go into fully fledged commercial funding, commercial farming. Right now, my main challenge, like you always say, you don't need big to start. But now with the vision and this thing that I have, I want to scale it up. So with a little support, I'll be able to scale it up so that I hope that one day I become an aggregator, whereby I'll be able to support other small holder farmers to push out, especially in the rural areas. Because I realized that most of the times in the rural communities, their main challenge is how to even access market. They will
Hmm.
cultivate the crops, no market. But once I have the financial footing with the knowledge that I have. If I'm able to be an aggregator, I'll be able to access them. So that when they come to me,
Mm. Okay, thank you so much, Fugu Mohammed. But this brings us to another question of, I mean,
And I'll
he
go
talked
out
about.
looking from the financial support. So that's the
All right, thank you so much. But
hello.
Fugu, before I go to Clement, what I mean, do you think it's a passion, or you just went back to what you left so many years ago because you just want to do it? Is it a passion that sent you back?
I I wouldn't say a passion. If it's just a passion, you may just be doing something to represent something because you feel you feel that you must do it, or you just want to do to satisfy your this thing, your needs or something. But
Your ego.
I'm looking at farming. Yes, I'm looking. Yes, your ego. Thank you. I'm looking at. I'm taking farming as a business. I'm treating the whole farming thing as a business. I'm not taking it as a passion that I'm treating as a business. Just like somebody, although I'm a journalist, but I've taken it because we realize that in recent times, now things are difficult and you can't rely on one thing for survival. You need multiple streams of income. So I'm approaching, I've approached farming as a business, not just to
Okay.
satisfy my ego. But yes.
Okay. So all right. So Clement, let's look at this point. I would like us to look at a point Fugu mentioned, the fact that some farmers would cultivate their crops and they are not getting market. I mean, I mostly don't agree with people who go into farming before they look for market. In almost all the videos that I prepared on farming, how to become a farmer, more than 15 of them, I mentioned in almost all of them that any serious farmer, whether you are a small scale farmer, should not go into farming before looking for a market. You don't set up or you don't build a kiosk, or you don't set up a business, any kind of business, before looking for a customer. If you go to a place where there are so many food vendors and you set up a food vendor there, you might be in trouble because people might choose to either buy your food, or they might choose to buy those close to you, nearby, depending on how you prepare the food. So before go into farming, first you have to look for marketing. You don't even have to just grow any crop. For instance, if I am in Oti region and I want to go into farming, I need to look at what exactly is lost in Oti region, and what are the people looking for. There could be a single crop in that area that people are not do not want to venture into it, probably because of difficulty in cultivating it. But a lot of people consume that crop. Who's going to take the risk to venture or cultivate that crop? You are supposed to do that. So once you do that, you are creating a very quick market for yourself. But you go to a community like Ejura, everybody is cultivating maize, and you decide to go into maize, then you would have a challenge with, marketing, unless unless the demand is high. If the demand is high, everybody will get the market. So I have always had a problem with people going into a business, especially farming, before looking for market. I don't agree with that. And I've always said, if you do that, you cannot blame anyone, because you know very well that this is a serious business and you must look for a market. You must create a market for yourself before even venturing into it. So Clement, let's look at the size of your farm. I've seen drone videos of your farm. It looks so beautiful. It looks like um, forestation or something. What is the size, and what exactly have you done to that land, big land that it looks so beautiful, like the Atua Forest?
um, uh, the current size of the area that we have cultivated is 100 hectares, and entire land area we are yet to develop is about 1,500 hectares in total. So we are not close to anywhere. But the system we are setting up is agroecology, food forest. So we are integrating all the plants that has um, some potential. They may not be, um, let's say, direct economic value, but some of them have the potential to improve the soil food web. Some of them have the potential to 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 make the climate a bit more cooler for other plants to survive. Some of them have the potential to retain moisture so that in the dry season other plants don't burn out. So the idea we are building is to build a food forest, an agroecological farm. So currently, 100 hectares. It's quite small for our scale. Even though that is our concept field, is our concept field to show that it is actually possible to turn a depleted land, which was the case when we started back in 2016. And even when we adapted it to agroecology, that was only 2019. So within all the pictures you are seeing, the improvement happened between 2019 till now. So within a span of, let's say, 3 years is what we are seeing. And if you see that it already looks like a forest, imagine this in the next 10 years, what we will get. With the system we are implementing, what we do is study the environment, the plants that do well, and their economic value to and environmental value. We're not only looking at, for instance, when we grow baobab, we know baobab trees, you will take sometimes 20, 25 years before you start harvesting. That
Yeah.
is if your focus is the fruit. But if your focus is the leaves, you can start harvesting in a shorter time. But with baobab, it also gives a lot of canopy and biomass. So our focus is not only on plant that gives us fruit. There are plants
Crops.
that gives us biomass to improve the topsoil. There are plants that, for instance, bananas and stuff like that. They are just pure water. So basically, when you harvest your banana and you cut the branch, you put them on the ground. They hold a lot of water to help other plants that would otherwise die in the dry season or during a drought. For instance, cashew like this, it don't like fire. So if you plant them near a banana, for instance, they get their moisture for them from the banana, and that helps it even in the dry season when the fires come. They are able to resist and push back again, which will otherwise not happen when you are just standing in a monoculture system. So
Mm. So
basically, that's what we do. We observe, we understand, and we basically become stewards of the land by observing what works and what doesn't work, and then we apply it in the field.
how many hectares did you mention?
Currently, is 100 hectares. That is
Hectares.
fully under the
That's
concept, and then the land area which we are planning to develop in total is around 1,500, 2,000 hectares in total. But
that
we
is
have not
that is
gone anywhere.
that is a huge size. I mean, of land.
Yes,
I'm sure. Are you
yeah,
doing
but
this?
it's consuming a
Are
lot
you
of
are
energy.
you doing this alone, or you have people engaged to do several activities on that particular project?
We what we do is we engage community people because our land size is quite big. So what we do is that uh, what we say you are not allowed to use chemicals on our field, but if you are willing to farm, we will give you the space within our farm,
Mm.
and you can plant whatever you want to plant, whilst we plant our trees. So we have the few machines that we use to set up the tree lines and prepare what we call the swales. so that they will be able to catch enough water, and you are allowed to plant whatever you want to plant in between. It's just that we are not allowed to use chemicals. That's the only thing we advise.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Clement. And I had wanted to bring in Fugu in to answer the question on what exactly people need, those watching us would need to venture into farming. I mean, they have many people always talk about funding. I mean, starting the startup capital. But from the stories that I have heard, I mean, many people started from somewhere. So if you want to put together a huge sums of money to start farming, you will never, never, never become a farmer. And so I wanted him to answer that question, but let me put it to you. But he's here. Fugu is here. So let Fugu answer that
Right.
question. Then I'll come back to you. Fugu, this question, I was supposed to ask a question, but you went off line.
Yeah. Okay.
The question is what does someone need? What does someone need to be able to venture into farming? I'm sure you have heard people complaining about funding, startup capital, and all that. They say they don't have money, they don't have business to raise money, and sometimes they claim that almost everybody who is successful in farming had money sitting somewhere they used to start the farming. What exactly does one need to be able to venture into farming? Hello, Fugu. Oh, okay, 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 Clement, you can go ahead, and when he comes, he can still talk about it.
Right, right. Um,
Yeah.
Okay, Fugu, go ahead.
Yes.
Wow, we have a challenge with the connection.
network challenges, I suppose.
Okay, Clement, you can take it up for me because I would eventually come to you, but you go ahead.
Yeah. Farming, what you need is a lot of resilience to start. Study your market, understand the clients that you want to serve, the people that you want to serve, who are your buyers, who are interested in your product, who is your audience, who are the people you want to sell your product to. What will be the value chain? What value chain will it take? If you understand the value chain of the product you want to grow, you will be able to better understand whether what you're producing will make sense in economically. It doesn't make sense to produce something that nobody is buying. So first, you have to do a bit of a market research. What products are needed? Where would you go to if you have the product? Instead of saying everybody says cashew is the big market, then you don't have a specific buyer. But because everybody's saying cashew has big market, you go and produce the cashew and it's sitting in your silo. It doesn't make sense. It's important to know who will buy your product and what price are they willing to pay for it. Um, but apart from that, um, are you willing to understudy someone? I think a lot of people just go into farming because they love to do farming or they hear that farming is lucrative, but they don't understudy people. If you really want to go into farming, my best advice is understudy someone. If you look critically in the market, those who grew up under parents or family members who are into agriculture, they don't go empty-handed. They always have some pre-knowledge that they can use becomes valuable in their business. So I would say that if you really are so passionate about farming or you want to go into farming, first understudy someone who is doing it. Learn a few lessons from there, and then and the best is to start small, start in a small quantity. So as you are understudying somebody, you are also practicing it in your house, maybe in a small backyard or in a small village somewhere. You're doing something small because you will never be ready So what is important is when you start small and you are understanding someone whilst doing it, you gain experience, and whatever mistakes the person have made, you don't repeat it at your farm. And whatever they do right, you only amplify it in your farm. So that's one thing. It's either to understand someone and whilst doing it small, or you take your time and understand the market, because that way when you are scaling up, or you are doing it, you have an idea. But you don't sit in your house and just think about going into farming without practicing it or starting something, and all of a sudden you want to go 10 acres, 20 acres. When I started, it was first like 1 acre, then later on, it became 2 acres. Later on, we expanded to 10. Later on, now once you get the niche, you get understanding the market, you understand the demand, you understand the ups and downs within the market. You are much more prepared. Even though in farming you can never be 100%, but at least you are much more prepared to handle the challenges that will come. And like Mohammed earlier said, small successes, when you chop small successes, it gives you more passion or more enthusiasm and more reason to expand. But if you fail big, then you might never venture into it anymore. But if you fail in small quantities, at least it's reasonable. You're not losing so much money. And so yeah, like Mohammed said, uh, do things that you can succeed at, and then it will give you more reason to expand and do more. I
So,
think
so thank you so, so
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much.
Uh,
We have 4 minutes.
yeah.
Okay, you
Nuruddin,
can
I'm
go ahead.
back.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Yeah,
I think
sorry,
you can
my
still
my
answer.
network, Tamale network is very bad.
My brother, you are not in Tamale.
Yes.
You are not
So
in Tamale.
yeah,
Say
briefly,
you are
what
not
I
in
was
Tamale.
trying to, the point I was, are you getting me?
Yes, yes, go ahead.
You see? Oh, I'm in Tamale. Yeah, yeah. So I was make the point I was trying to make is that uh, farming is one of the businesses that you don't need big money to start. Just like maybe trying to shipping cars or something into the country. But it's something that with a little amount you can start. However, the first thing you must look at is whether what you are going to do, you understand it or not. For some of us who happens to come from a farming home, arguably we have some knowledge, little knowledge about farming already. So our case is always different. But if you are someone who has never been to the farm, you don't have any idea as to how the whole thing is, it will be very important for you to try to understand. Just like my brother said, you try to understudy some farmers. Even if you studied agric in school, but I know that on the field you get better understanding, you get better understanding. And you start small. For instance, you can decide to start maybe goods, starting a good farming. If you get one or two, you'll be able to understudy them very well. You understand how they are before you think about pumping huge sum of money in it. Let me use myself for example. I started during my father was having all the 10 goes there. And I consulted a friend who is a veterinary. We're all in school together, senior high. And he then took me through some of the things. he advised me as to what I should do. I didn't even know that every month or all that I have to engage the veterinary to come and even check on the animals or something. I just bought them and I left them, and they were roaming just like the rural community the way they do it. And that was the tailor. So later on, that didn't, I mean, discourage me. When I bought new ones, when I brought them home the following day, made a veterinary to come and check on them. And every month he'll come and check them and I give them medications and inject them. And that particular this thing, they didn't die. You see, so I'm saying this because if you don't understand what you are doing very well, it's very difficult. So what I can say is that they should always try to understand what they want to do. Don't be in haste to invest huge money because you have the funds. You just want to do, this person is doing, you want to do. No, even some of us, although some of us we understand the thing, we feel that we've not gotten to there yet. We're still learning. All the time we consult, and you can bear with me that you, for a new reading, we've been chatting, and most of the thing you always say, I always pick them, but you wouldn't know that all the advice you give, I pick them. You see, so we'll surely get there, but we need to take our time. We need to, hasten slowly, understand the thing, and take our time.
All right, so I think our time is
And
up. I think,
every
True,
step,
thank you so much.
if
I
you start
mean,
with an
our
acre,
time is
next
up.
time you try to scale it up. And also, my brother made mention of the fact that you have to study the area very well and know the kind of crop that you need to.
Oh, oh, Kelman, I think your time is up. We're supposed to end at 4:45. Thank you so much for your time, and we'll find another day and meet here again to, talk more on this particular issue. Thank you so much.